by a businesswoman and social entrepreneur, as well as a former maiden, Nonkhanyiso Laconco Conco. Very good morning to you.
A very good morning to you, Paul.
Thank you so much for joining us. Of course, before we get started with our conversation, let's just listen into this.
Because sometimes it becomes a problem when it's related in a different context without inputting into why is it important, how should we take it forward to ensure that our children and even the nation at large understand how these things are done. And I know that some people had a problem in that regard. But the fact of the matter is we must ensure that one of the things that it has an impact on, remember that at this stage, we have a problem of HIV and AIDS, which is a burden on the state, which is a burden on the society. It also assists for girls, even not only girls, but even young boys, to take time before they can engage in some of these sexual activities on the basis that they will understand why is it important and why should they delay some of the sexual activities like I have already indicated. So without understanding the importance, our children will not know why is it necessary for them to delay the process and then be in a better position to understand how culture needs to be intertwined with modern activities.
Right, that was Murwakho Mumabi from the National Heritage Council of South Africa, the acting CEO, giving us some sort of context when it comes to the reed dance and why it's relevant in this generation and in this time. I am joined in studio by Nonkhanyiso Conco, known as Laconco, who will be paying tribute to Amazulu King Goodwill Zwelithini. Thank you so much for joining us. You've been a maiden for over a decade.
Yeah.
And this is something really close to your heart. You've been passionate about it. What drew you towards attending year after year after year?
My mother and I used to live in Ilogushetua, Togoza. I'm sure you know it, in Johannesburg. And as young I was so intrigued by the noise of maidens. They are a hostel Togoza. And I just like how they used to dress. I liked the music. I like indlela basina ngayo. And I said to my mom, my mom is Sotho. And I say to her, I do want to join Leza Ingane. You know, how do I join? And because my mom didn't know the culture, didn't sort of like understand, and I didn't follow up as much, especially it was in Johannesburg. It is very popular now, but at that time, I mean, very slightly, you'd get it there and there. And so when I moved to Pietermaritzburg, that's where I actually met Indomazane that's named Uwendi at high school. I went to Haythorne, and a culture of Umkhosomhlanga is very popular in KZN. So the lady told me, Guti monthly, this is what she does. And I was like, I've been looking for this. And I joined under the organization called Nomkhubulane. So at first when I joined, I mean, I was young. I think I was about 12 or so. And I didn't actually understand and know the value of culture and preserving yourself. So at first, to be quite honest with you, it was just about the colors of the beads, the songs, and the dancing. So as I grew up, I grew into it, and I actually understand by the workshops, by attending the reed dance, by listening to His Majesty Wuti, how important it is to actually preserve yourself. But I just liked the idea to be unique. You know, you practicing this, you preventing yourself, and I think the more I grew up, that's where I knew the value and how golden it is to preserve yourself. Yeah.
His Majesty King Goodwill Zwelithini revived the cultural functions of Umhlanga.
Yeah.
What you're talking about now, the symbolic reed dance ceremony, and it was with good reason that he revived it. But not everyone will be on the same page here. Not everyone will think that it is something that is cultural and educational at the same time. When you observe all the years that you attended and your interactions with the king, were there any interactions with you and the king, and you know, your first impressions of him?
As you say, it's the king. There's that respect in our culture that it's His Majesty, it's the king. You can't really get closer. You can't have some sort of relationship, as you say, per se. But as I grew and as I understand the culture, I formed friendships with Amazinyane, which is his children, some of his children. And it was very hard, of course, to come closer to him, but it's something so huge in our culture to actually just be in the same, you know, ambience with him. So I had that, and then of course, by growing closer to Amazinyane, I also met some of the queens and formed relationships of a mother and daughter. And more than anything, is that I learn and as much as I can of the culture and the stages of a woman. I think it's quite important that if you grow up as a woman, you understand each phase and each stage that you're in. After that, what is stage? How do I dress? What are the colors that I should wear as this each particular phase? And it did assist me to grow so closer and to get to know the in-depth of culture, and more than anything, the stages. What is it that you do? I mean, when I heard the news of His Majesty, I said to myself, oh my goodness, we have lost our shield, we have lost our light, and we have lost umuntu obekade eyihawu. As you heard, Baba Vivi Omkhize, he is the Zulu king, but you never hear him even speaking in public saying, I'm the Zulu. He was the king, or he was the leader of the entire nation, even abroad.
What role do you imagine that we will see the maidens playing during this process of funeral arrangements and the role that they played within the isiZulu culture?
Yeah. It is a untold truth or fact ukuthi mangabe kudlulile umuntu obaleka kangaka in our society. I'm sorry, I'm having a lump in my throat. I've never imagined that I'll be sitting here at this time and paying tribute to him. So the circle that I have, because I'm also closer to maidens who still go to the redance, and what they are currently doing is that if you are having an outing today, if you are seeing whatever, or if you have imisebenzi like imicimbi or so forth, that is on standstill until umzimba wakhe utshalwe, or until the family announces, because vele in our culture magdlule ungangezwe lakhe. We don't know as the public when is it you never see when is the body being buried or etc. So we are on standstill, and what we are doing is just to embrace Imzuzu memories that he has lived, and just to celebrate him.
You are also a mentor to Amabhinqa, and you know I can see that you know you spent your life. Yeah. I mean, 15 years is quite significant.
Yeah.
To be dedicating yourself so passionately to ensuring that you also become part of the isiZulu culture, and you stand as a role model, like you've done with Amabhinqa. Tell us about Amabhinqa.
Amabhinqa is igama la very deep in KZN. The history says abo mama or woman bebe ngaqoqi, because now things has modernized, so bebe bhinqa dwaba, and so that particular ngizothi area has named, it's like a slang, Zulu slang, singamabhinqa thina, so meaning very deep Zulu. So we call ourselves amabhinqa, and ukuba ibhinqa, it's not just being inspired or just thinking because it's trending. You can just be, it needs to be internal. You need to live it, like like a practice, like a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle, and you can't have it overnight. You need to go. I mean, as you are saying, I've been part of Umkhosi Mhlanga, or I had practiced embracing the culture for 11 years, and thereafter, what Nonkhanyiso Laconco has instilled, and I hope that Intombi will continue and hold on Amazon and the nation as a whole, is that to instill culture and to instill patience and to instill humbleness and respect, because culture, and the reason why it is so close to my heart, it never teaches not to love the person next to you. It never teaches you not to so culture teaches always love, patience, respect, and dignity.
What do you imagine Umhlanga will be now without the king?
The king has done a very good job to actually uvuselela usiko lokuzigcina and usiko lokuthanda ubuwena. I do think that usithile emehlweni ethu, but his spirit is definitely living with us, and I do hope that even with Ndlunkulu bazoqhubeka bayibambe njengoba efundisile. Now, zonke intombi ezihamba umhlanga, even including us that were there before, you hold it your entire life. If you've been there in practice, or if you know your roots and where you're coming from, it's not easy for you to lose who you are. No matter where you are, no matter what you have, or no matter what you achieve in your journey of life, but your roots and who you are will forever. It's like impande, it's a seed. You sow and ulibelukile nje esihlahleni. So I do see it continuing, and I would like to say to whoever who was close to Ndlunkulu, or even with amazinyana or Ndlunkulu, I do have confidence in the faith that it's still going to continue. We'll never see him or hear him speak, besides the visuals, of course, of the history, but the legacy will continue.
You know, it's interesting, as you've been talking to me, I know I've been taking you back and forth in terms of emotions, but as you speak, Laconco, just watching your mannerisms, as you sort of, I mean, speaks to the sort of aura that he had, and which forces you to adjust your mannerisms around around His Majesty. What sort of legacy do you believe he leaves behind?
Is that abantu should know the truth and live their truth. Nonkhanyiso Laconco is fondly known of not tolerating what's not right. That is one thing that is essential of his characteristics. If you're better, we are better. And if you've done well, he's going to clap hands and say, you've done well. And more than anything, I don't think Nonkhanyiso was a father. I think he was more of, a daddy of the nation. You would actually feel, when you're even in one room with him, so humble. His heart was open to all. And so I do see seeds blossoming of him, of respect, knowing who you are, and embracing your roots. Yeah.
And before we close and let you go to whatever your day lineup is, what lesson, powerful lesson, do you believe you've learned personally, and one that you will continue to embody and carry with you for the rest of your life?
It's definitely knowing your roots. It's definitely being humble and staying in your lane. I think when you are content, it's being internally content of uyazazi ukuthi ulaConco, uyazi imvelaphi yakho, you are empowering yourself. And also, Ubayete spoke very fondly of GBV, gender-based violence, and how abantu fanele kuzwane and how fanele kubunjwane. So thank you so much to him for ukugqugquzela. I mean, I can imagine it's not easy, but him preserving usiko lokuthi it's an annual thing for so many years. It's over 30 years agqugquzela lolu siko. So keeping that and being so exciting and a victory ukuthi uma ukhila umhlanga noma wanyathela nje esigodlweni, and for him trying to keep it ngesizotha as much as possible. So I think it's just being content of who you are and uzotha and just empowering yourself as a woman.
Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us and coming in studio to
Thank
share
you so much.
your personal experiences. Laconco, known as Laconco, but of course speaking to Nonkhanyiso Conco, former maiden and businesswoman. We